to speak with you. All right. Should be going live here. I think we're live. What's up, chat? Are we live? Let us know.
Looks like we are.
Yeah, it does. Awesome. All right, cool. Thank you all for joining us. As you know, I'm John, and today I have my buddy Micah Curtis joining us once again. He'll be talking about his upcoming comic, Englewood, which has done very, very well on Indiegogo, I must say. Micah, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people here.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those who don't know, my name is Micah Curtis, longtime YouTuber-ish sort of thing. Been all around the world, but now comic book writer, thankfully. My current comic, Englewood, as John said, is on Indiegogo right now, sitting just short of $10,000. So it's been a pretty good run, to say the least. 384 people have backed it so far. So pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, for those of you that want to check it out, I did link it in the description below, but I'll also go ahead and link it here in the chat if you guys want to go ahead and check that out if you want to fund it. It looks to be, I'm looking forward to it. I like the idea and the concept of the story behind it. You know, a street level hero that was a former MMA fighter. I mean, you're already like checking off two of the boxes there for me, superheroes and MMA, because I love MMA. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing this when it comes out. I've of course already donated. I might have to get another copy just in case for someone else to spread the goodness around of Englewood. Might buy an extra copy just for that.
There you go.
Bro, I mean, I gotta say, man, looking at your campaign, bro, I'm just like, you got to be ecstatic, man. This seems to have gone way beyond maybe what you might have even expected for it, right?
Just about. What I kind of expected was to hit. I expected to hit goal. That was basically it. And when it came to hitting goal, it was like basic idea was that we would be able to get it done, ship it out to, wherever. And then, but sadly, like materials and things like that wouldn't really necessarily be top them, stuff like that. We'd still be able to afford putting them in Gemini mailers, but regardless, it wasn't quite what I would have liked to have done. Now that we're close to 10,000, we can increase the amount of increase the or make use better paper and materials for the book itself. Things along those lines. Plus, make sure that it's mailed out in something that's going to protect the book. So it's it went from bare bones to a little bit more high class, and then hopefully with if we're able to hit the next stretch goal, which is 15,000, we'll even be able to hire Eric Weathers to letter the book. And for those who don't know, Eric is currently doing lettering Earthworm Jim, the graphic novel. So
wow.
Yeah, so Eric is very skilled, and even if we aren't able to pull it off, Eric did give me and my partner Hatman some tips on how to do it right, and just like little things to look at. So, if nothing else, even if it hits like even 10 grand, you're still going to get a fantastic book with top-notch art and in the type of paper and packaging that's going to last you. So,
yeah, I mean, bro, like I said, that's awesome. The fact that you're going to be able to do something more than what you had previously expected to do. So that's definitely a plus. And I think once this one's out there too, obviously you're going to have the experience of already having one under your belt, and the next one should probably be. It seems like that's the case, right? After people have put out their first one, after that it gets a little bit easier doing the next couple of campaigns, as we've seen with Richard Meyer and I'm sure with Ethan too, and other people that have done multiple Indiegogos at this point.
Oh yeah, and that's what I've heard from them too. Is Ethan is out shipping thousands of copies of Cyberfrog. I actually got mine in.
Nice.
So it's actually right here.
I haven't got mine yet. I only ordered the Chromium one, the first one that we needed the first campaign. I should have gotten that one because had I known that one would have come in before the Chromium one, I probably would have also donated to that campaign.
To be honest, the Chromium one though is going to be a big time collector's item when it comes to this comic. This one I got basically just for a reading copy. If I back it again, it'll probably be the line art version that's already been done. So,
Yeah.
which he just set that, which I'm not sure where it's at. I know it hit big pretty quickly. Here it is. It's almost at 50 grand, and that amount got him over. Cyberfrog is now $1 million comic.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah, I want to donate to that one too. I'm definitely going to be donating to that one, to the line art one, because I should have done it for the other two, for the other copies as well, but I didn't think about it. I was like, I'm just getting one, it's fine. But after thinking about it, after the campaigns were done, I was like, man, maybe I should have gotten the other ones too.
Oh yeah, because the art in this is incredible. Like, and it's not just Ethan's line work, because Ethan has always been a good artist. That goes without saying. But everything about this is about, you can see the experience on the pages, because like the panel distribution is perfect for the lettering, so on and so forth. Like it's really, really good. But the kicker is that Kyle Ritter's color work is just as good, if not better, than the guys that he was working with during his Green Lantern run at DC.
Wow.
And that's saying something, because Ethan's DC work, like, is up until this, I think, was the best of his career.
Oh yeah, I would agree. I mean, I love his work on the Green Lantern. I mean, what him and Jeff Johns did. I mean, amazing. I mean, just even from the beginning with Rebirth, from then on, and then the Sinestro Corps War, all that stuff, fantastic. I mean, truly, that's what definitely revitalized that character, hands down.
Yeah.
Probably the best run that I can think of that or at least Green Lantern Hal Jordan's ever had, was that run with Jeff Johns that Ethan did. I loved it, man. And I remember seeing his work prior to that, though it wasn't as much. I mean, he really hit the work that really, I think, defined Ethan was the stuff he did with DC. But I do remember the little work that he was able to do with Marvel as well. That's when I first became aware of his work, was really through the stuff he did with Marvel.
Yeah, see, I didn't actually know very much about him until that Green Lantern run, because because that was the hot stuff back when I was in college, about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And but before that, but what ended up happening is one of my friends turned me on to Grant Morrison at the time too. I was reading everything I could get my hands on, because I had missed out on so much. And what I ended up doing was reading New X-Men, and I was like, what is this? Yeah. And then later on I realized that Ethan did that as well. So
yep, first time I saw stuff was on the New X-Men run.
Yep,
that's when the first time I got exposure to it. I was like, because I remember seeing the stuff that Frank quietly was doing, and then it switched up to Ethan for a couple issues. I was like, who's this? And it's just like, oh, this is really good stuff. And then it went back, then some other artists, I think, came in, and then it went back, I think, eventually to Frank quietly. But yeah, that New X-Men run was fantastic, man. That to me was also that was another milestone for the X-Men as well, was that run that Grant Morrison did. But that's what kind of turned me on to Ethan's work, or my exposure to it was that. And then when he started doing stuff in DC with Green Lantern Rebirth and the Flash Rebirth and all that stuff, I was just like, man, this is fantastic. Just fantastic work. So, but became a fan after that.
Yeah, the big thing for Ethan is he's really setting a standard, and I've had this conversation with him. He's really setting a standard for the other people that he kind of brings under his wing. And I don't know if people have noticed this, but there's a lot of people that with all the drama that's going on within Comicsgate, which I guess we could talk about that if you want to know. But there's a lot of guys that he has reached out to try to bring closer to him, to kind of help them grow their own brands.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've seen that. I mean, I'm not too familiar with all the stuff that's going on with that. I know that there was a lot of stuff that I haven't kept too close track of it, but I know there was a couple controversies with some of the people that were kind of there at the beginning, at the cusp of everything, and then there was some falling out, some disagreements with people, and I'm aware of some of the players involved and stuff like that, and I don't I obviously there's some of them that I like, some of them that I just don't really know a lot about. I guess it's one of those things of I'm not really on anybody's side on it, because obviously, I mean, for me, from with everything with Comic Skate, right from the beginning, I've always been just more of a spectator with it, than anything else. I saw when it was starting up and all that. Like I said, your channel was really one of the first channels that I remember. You and Richard's channel were really the first two that really kind of I remember subscribing to in regards to when all this was really starting up, very early on. So, and I followed it through watching your content and his content. And then of course, when Ethan kind of it became a part of it as well, started following his content, and then some of the other people that got involved in that kind of early stage of everything. And then, I did see some of the Fallout stuff after the fact as well. I remember I also did see, I don't think I talked to you about this, but I remember I was on the stream where you went on with Ethan to first, I think, promote Englewood, and Flash came on. Flash came on and went off on that kid.
On Nasser. That was my moment where I felt like Homer shrinking into the bushes. Because I came on literally right as that happened. And I was like, what did I walk into?
And I thought, dude, here's the thing. And I like Flash. I think Flash, Flash has, I would say that probably wasn't the best time for him to do that. But at the same time, I kind of like Flash is Flash, man. Flash is just, he's gonna be Flash, you know what I mean? And I remember that, and I was just kind of like, and I remember seeing you on there. You were just kind of like doing the whole like open mouth, like looking both ways, like what do I do?
Yeah,
like what happened?
that was one of those unfortunate things, and that's really all it's been, is that there are some people that seem to make these judgments about things that are going on, and it's all oriented around Twitter, and it sucks, because the fact of them, and this is my perspective just generally, is that if somebody's bothering you on Twitter, you have a mute button, you have a block button. If you don't want to hear what they have to say, go ahead and utilize both. Your action will, say something about, where you're at with a particular topic, but at the same time, if you have to do it for your sanity, whatever. One that I had it today, where there's another comic book writer. I won't name him, but he was accusing Ethan of something or other, of what was it? Of pressing charges against the online group War Campaign, and saying that Ethan is like ordering them to do these things, and there's no truth to it. And and he's like, well, nobody around Ethan's circle will report on this, and so I got pissed at him, and he blocked me afterwards. It's like, well, if you don't want to hear it, that's your business.
Yeah, and that's the one thing, man, that I've noticed a lot with, especially the Twitter crowd. I don't really engage much on Twitter. I mean, I'll retweet stuff. Like, I'll mostly post like when I put up a video and things like that, and maybe retweet some of fellow YouTubers' videos and things like that. I don't really get into very many discussions and stuff like that on there, because it's just, man, that whole I've never been one to really be into social media to begin with, but especially on Twitter, I mean, it's a cesspool, bro. I mean, there's just so many people, and there's nothing wrong with using it, but I think there's definitely something wrong if people are expending, just an excessive amount of time on there, and just are worried about getting into, just basic, arguments and just slap fights really on Twitter. I mean, I don't think there's not much to be gained there. And that to me it's not very appealing anyways, because people just seem to want to dogpile on stuff, and their only concern is to me, at least, again, to me, this is just my view on it, my opinion on it, is just validating their existence online. And it's just like, this is just fleeting stuff. I mean, you know, you'll have, I guess, your little dopamine hit in the moment. I said, but that goes away. And really, at the end of the day, none of what is being said on here on this platform, what you're saying, is of any true world consequence. I mean, unless you're, I guess, doing something illegal, or, you know, like by like threatening someone, or you know, inciting violence against someone or something like that. I mean, there's no real world kind of consequences for anything online. I mean, so what, you get to, I guess, proselytize to people that agree with you and give you internet backpats, but then what? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that's sort of the thing that I see going on there, is like, there are people that literally just drive themselves insane, you know, because of Twitter. You know, there are people that I've seen that they tweet they've tweeted like thousands of times over the course of a few months. And I'm like, I don't think that I have like even 10,000 tweets, and I've had my Twitter account for almost 10 years. Like, I've had a Twitter account since it was first founded.
Yeah.
And it's like, what on earth is going on? So for me, whenever I see this sort of thing, my general problem with it is my reaction whenever it comes to anything dramatic is kind of the way I do anything in life is, if there is a problem and somebody is causing it, I'm going to put my foot in their ass and make sure that this thing gets solved quickly and squash it before it continues to become something even dumber. I would rather kick somebody off of my internet property and have them go off and be stupid, but in a small little space, than letting them, you know, be in a bigger spot yelling bullshit unchallenged.
Yeah.
You know, because it's sort of the same approach that I took to whenever I worked security, you know, at hotels and stuff like that, is you want to contain it. You want to make sure that if somebody's causing trouble and there is a problem that needs to be addressed, you need to contain it quickly before that person starts being a normal human being and screwing everything up for no reason. So, you know, what I usually would do when those days happened is I would confront the person immediately. You know, if like I heard somebody make a threat to somebody else, the next thing you saw is this big 6'2" gorilla of a man, you know, all of a sudden in front of the guy going, all right, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And that's generally how I like to do it, because if you let that sort of thing just sit, then nothing good ever happens. It's just a mess. But yeah, people tend to kind of stew in their own madness. And if they get a like you said, it gives them that little dopamine boost. It gives them that little thing. It's like crack to some people. But there are, you know, I see some people that, you know, get on Twitter all the time and just like throw accusations, stuff like that. I'm like, do you have a job?
Yeah.
Do you have a thing you do professionally by any chance? No? Start, please, because you're going to drive yourself to an early grave.
Yep.
Which is true. I mean, you don't want to sit there and just be that guy. And there's a lot of those around Comicsgate that are trying to stir shit up instead of trying to contribute to anything. Yeah. And the problem that I have with it, and the reason that I would rather put the kibosh on it, on either get the story straight quick and then tell those guys to F off, or or just ignore them completely and don't give them oxygen, is because it hurts business.
Yeah,
and
I would agree.
And this is one thing about Comicsgate that I try to tell people, and people seem to be responsive for, or with, I should say, is that this is a business. We got this whole controversy started over a business and how business was being done. You know, it's not like it was Gamergate, where it was started over game journalism. This is literally about an industry. Yeah, that is, you know, screwing itself.
Yeah,
you look at the characters behind me, and thank goodness that at least two of them are being well written. Oddly enough, all three of them, Thanos, Venom, and Beta Ray Bill, now being written by Donny Cates. which is hilarious. But Donnie's a really good writer. He's a douchebag, but he's a really good talented writer.
That's what it's funny because I actually had that conversation with the local comic book shop for me is literally right down the street. So it's within walking distance. That's how close it is. And the guy that owns the shop, we were actually, it's funny. I don't think not this last Wednesday, but maybe a couple Wednesdays ago at this point, I want to say maybe it was the Wednesday before last or the Wednesday before that. We actually were talking about Donnie Cates. It's just like, yeah, he's an a-hole, but he's a good writer. And he's one of those guys he's one of those few guys that I can actually separate the art from the artist. With other people, not so much, but with him I can, because I don't think he's gone far enough yet where I have to be like, okay, nah, bro, we're done. I can't with you no more. You know what I mean? He hasn't gotten to that point with me yet. You know what I mean? I hope he doesn't, you know what I mean? I hope he gets his head out of his rear end, but
yeah.
He's one of those few guys that, of course, you know, he obviously he lets you know what he's about, I guess, from the jump. So I guess you kind of know what to expect from him, but at the same time, that's dangerous. That's a problem, because like you were talking about with business, you know what I mean? It's the whole reason why this movement started to begin with, was because we see the signs there with like a guy like Donnie Cates, right? He's kind of in the pre-phase of it almost, right?
Yeah.
You can see, you know, he's not like to where like a guy like maybe Dan Slott is yet, or some of these other guys that are, are have the TDS going for him yet. I don't think he's there yet, but he's kind of in that pre-phase. You kind of see a little bit of it, and you're just like, bro, you might want to pump the brakes, man. I don't think you want to go full Dan Slott just yet, bro.
Yeah, you know? Exactly. But the big thing about dramatics like that and people being dicks is it distracts from this business. There's been a ton of drama over the last 3 months, and it does not stop, because the instant it seems to get squashed and everybody goes to neutral corners, some asshole comes around and starts stirring shit up. Meanwhile, campaigns that are unable to breathe, you know, I feel I've suffered from it. Like Englewood had a lull in funding during the whole war campaign drama. And I told Ethan, I'm like, yeah, Comicsgate's not dead, but this is killing people's campaigns, because all these live streams, all these videos are being focused on this bullshit instead of new creators who want to get involved and want to create something new. And they're just not getting the room to breathe. Like, and it's affecting people now where I worry that they're not going to hit their goal, and for books that look good. Here's an example. Have you heard of a book called The Gods Fear Me?
No, I haven't at all. No.
So I'm gonna DM you on Twitter.
Okay.
This is done by a really cool Comicsgate dude named Mike Murphy. And Mike is one of the nicest guys that I've ever seen on social media. He's always tweeted my stuff out and retweeted me. He's whenever he addresses me on something that I'm incorrect on, he is always super, super respectful. He's all around a good dude. Mm-hmm. And until I think for like the last week, this book has not nearly gotten enough attention, you know, when it comes down to that. Why is that? Because there's all this other stuff that got stirred up between Ethan and Mike S. Miller. It's like, this is stupid. And it got stirred up by an old school CG YouTuber, as if it's like, you can really say old school. It's only been a couple of years.
Yeah.
Causing a rift between these guys and picking fights. And meanwhile, things suffer. Like, I look at this campaign here, and if you have a look at this art, this reminds me of like an old school manga in its tone. You know, just the image of this android waking up from this pool of liquid. I'm not quite sure what it is, and just looking to her left, and it's like, kill them all.
Yeah, like, I'm looking it over right now.
Yeah, I love the coldness of that. You know, like that's really, really good dialogue, you know, because it tells me that this is not a human being that we're dealing with. The human being is not the protagonist, you know? So, and not to mention, The Gods Fear Me is one of the best titles I've seen for an independent comic in a long time.
Yeah, it is. I went ahead and shared it in the chat. Somebody in the chat is asking a question. The Autist Whisperer asks, why are these people causing drama and division?
Because they have nothing better to do. You know, the people who cause the most trouble when it comes to Comicsgate are the people who aren't working on anything. This most recent drama that got stirred up was by fucking Edwin, but also from Englewood, and another guy who tried to stir stuff up with me was this guy called Number One Marmaduke Fan. You know, and that's all they do is try to stir shit up, and it just makes things worse, and it takes our focus away from comic books, you know. And the big thing is, and the what my worry is this: it's like I have my own platform. I have no doubt that and this isn't saying anything negative about Ethan. I do owe him quite a bit for helping me promote Englewood, but I think we probably could have at least made goal if I never appeared on Comic Artist Pro Secrets Live. I think that I probably would have made it. It would have been hard, might have had to extend, but would have made it eventually, because I do have a small platform with about, you know, just below 20,000 subscribers. I had a base there that I could have worked off of. I mean, my first day I made $2,000. Yeah. So there's that sense that there is a that people are just doing this for attention or for clout. And it sucks, because like books like this should be hitting their goals easily. You know, like there's no reason that this book I'm looking at, and I wish I had money to give, it should be more than close to $4,000. It should be close to goal by now, you know. And I feel for Mike, because he really has been forgotten in all of this when he shouldn't have been.
Yeah, he's one of the ones lost in the shuffle.
Yeah,
that's unfortunate. And that always seems to happen. And you know, I get why it happens, because for a lot of people, controversy, they have that kind of wrestling mentality, right? It was Eric Bischoff. I remember the first person I ever heard say this quote was Eric Bischoff, and I read his book after he had put it out. His, you know, controversy creates cash, and it's true, but it doesn't just create cash; it creates a lot of attention, even if it's not positive attention, because it's of that same kind of mindset, right? That no publicity is bad publicity. So people figure, well, you know what? People are at least paying attention to me, and it doesn't matter if they hate me, but at least I'm being talked about. And while I get that mindset, if your model is that you want to be focusing on the negative, that it's mostly about just how much controversy and stuff you could stir up, that's not sustainable in the long run. That ticket is going to get punched way too many times at some point, and people eventually do get sick of it, and they move on. They move on from it. They might be around it for a little bit, and they might be like, yeah, this, that, or whatever. They might even be with you, but after a while, they get tired of it and they move on. They dust themselves on, and they move on to the next thing. It's really not sustainable for in terms of it being if that's your model, you know, it's not a sustainable model for the long term at all. It's fleeting. It's just going to be in the moment. It's going to have its expiration date, and then that's it. It's dead. So I don't know why. I mean, and I've seen it a lot with a lot of these controversies that have been going on lately with people, more and more, where you're seeing people fizzle out, because again, you know, they've gone way too many times to that well, and nobody wants it no more. They're done. They're over it. So
yeah. And that's happened a lot, because like there's been controversy after controversy, strong personalities butting heads with strong personalities, and there's never any give, and there's never anybody saying, maybe I'm wrong here. Yeah. And that's what really is killing people. And it's the thing about it is that there are some people who have a safe ship, I think, you know, who have their brand. You know, Ethan, I think, is really good example of that, because there's constantly been people who have crashed up against him and failed, you know, and because he's a guy in comics, he's a guy with all this experience. He's got a big time fan base. You know, I've seen auctions where pieces of his art go for $2,000. But the thing is, and my concern is the industry as a whole. Yeah. We have a slice of the industry now, the independents. But the question that is being brought up is, are we really bringing around the next generation of comic book creators, and are we really giving them the time and attention and things like that they're going to need to get better and to improve. And I think that there's definitely a pocket full of guys, but at the same time, I think that there's room for a little bit more. Like, I have no doubt that my next book is going to be a even bigger success than Englewood was.
Yeah.
I think part of it is because, I've already done a campaign, so I'm already familiar with how it goes. But now I've also got, aside from working with one Dynamite artist already, I've got another one who is marketing the hell out of himself. I mentioned that campaign. He did a his name's Preston Acevedo, and he did original pinup art and alternative cover in a day to help this campaign out. And the original art, which was $200, sold immediately.
Wow.
Preston, and by the way, Preston is a godlike artist. Like, let me see if I can find. This isn't the cover of my next book. This was more of like an image that's like proof of concept. But
if you want to share it on screen there.
Yeah, give me one sec.
The beautiful thing is too, man, is just after you're doing this, you basically have your proof of concept out there once this book is out there. So people are going to know that you can deliver.
Exactly. Let's see, where is it at? As I just had this colored too by the colorist we just hired, which the running joke now is that I apparently don't hire white people. Everybody I work with is Hispanic. It's hilarious, but awesome because they're all great guys. But
all right,
so hopefully people will be able to see this.
Let me add that on there.
Yep. So this is for my next project, which is called 3 Nights, 4 Days. And yeah, Preston sketched this for me in a day. And then the guy who colored it he called this a rush job. And it looks tremendous.
Yeah, for a rush job, that's what I was about to say. For a rush job, it looks pretty good.
Yeah. So this is going to be a Dynamite project. But not everybody has the platform that I do. So what I think is going to have to start to happen is I think that there's going to have to be a better attitude in this community, in this industry, in this part of the industry that we're in, of squashing drama quickly and just not giving people air. Is putting boots to asses and be like, enough of this. And because at the end of the day, I am of the belief that if you continue to have a positive attitude and you continue to work towards the good of the customer, people will come,
Absolutely.
You just got to have your pitch down and you got to have a good product. You got to be on. And one thing you probably noticed, like, I've been everywhere these last couple of months.
Oh yeah.
Like I've been on War Campaign. I've been on Captain Frugal's stream. I've done just about every small stream that I can do. And then I'm going to talk to Wenger. Wenger's awesome. Probably like one of my favorite people I've met through this whole Comicsgate thing. Southern as hell, but that's part of his charm. But with I'm going to do his stream. I do everything. I do John Malin, but he's sadly been suspended.
No, I didn't even know about that. What happened? They got Malin?
So Ethan's actually at fault for that one.
Uh-oh.
He was playing music videos from some artist he was watching, and they flagged John for it. And I'm like, oh. So sadly, John Malin is, KIA when it comes to streaming for now anyway. So, well, no, MIA, I should say. But he will return. But there was literally a joke one night on Ethan's stream because I've been trying to get on Malin's show. I've been trying to get his attention. I've been talking to people who know him. They're like, just DM him. I hate doing that. I hate like saying, will you please have me? I'm like, no, I hate doing that. Yeah. So I was just like on Twitter, like trying to get him to DM me. And it's like, yeah, I love your artwork, which I do, and I'd love to have conversations with you, which I would. And I'm just like, what do I have to do aside from DM the guy directly? And then like one joke one night is that Wenger ate a comic once. So I'm like, and then John had him on his show. So I wrote down this note of eat comics to get on Malin's show. So, but no, like there has to be an attitude of positivity, and there has to be an attitude of comics first. You know,
Absolutely.
and the good thing is I think there's a lot of people who are like that. We will get through in the long run. It's just going to take time because there's a lot of great guys out there that are putting out good work. Vinny Tartamella, who I have his book here, City of Venus. For those who backed this campaign, by the way, the materials of this book are the same ones that Englewood will be using, just so you know. So the cover, you can hear it.
Yeah.
It's heavy.
Nice and sturdy.
Oh, yeah. I love it. It's actually a heavier stock than the one Ethan used for Cyberfrog. But it's gloss, too, which is even better. But
looks sturdy.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah, Vinny Tartamella is one guy, is a really, really talented artist. I want to work with him on a book sometime. I really do. Like, he's one of the artists that's like, I would love to work with him. So he's so easy to talk to. So I know he's going to be easy to work with. Adam Post is an old school, publisher.
Yeah, he's actually in the chat. Adam is actually in the chat. I actually plugged his book too.
Of which
would love to have Adam on sometime too. I actually I was able to get in on his campaign last minute because I had completely, man, my bad, Adam. I had completely forgotten about it. I was like, oh, wait, that's gonna be ending soon. Let me get.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you put them on your thing and you forget about them, and you think because I have my campaign list thing that I've added campaigns onto, and sometimes I think, I've already donated to the campaign, and I forget that, no, I just am following the campaign and haven't donated to it yet. So that was one of those cases where I was like, oh, wait a minute, I haven't donated yet. You know what I mean? Which it's happened on a couple of the campaigns that I've followed that I haven't that I forget because I have them on my campaigns list that I'm just following them, and I haven't realized that I haven't donated to them. So I got in on it last minute though. So let me just answer a question real quick. Somebody was asking about my TMNT shirt. I didn't know about the TMNT series coming to Netflix, but I love TMNT. Yes. But go ahead. Sorry, Mike. I know.
You're good. But the point is, like, there's other people too, like Hal Jameson, who's doing Shinobi Sasquatch, Von Klaus, who I didn't know this, but found out later. He was a fan of mine of my channel. He's doing Monster MD. And I already mentioned Eric Weathers and Wenger earlier. There's also Sweens, who's an artist who's doing a book called Oddity. There's a lot of guys that the cool thing about and Professor Geek's another really good example. And then there's people who are just internet personalities. Well, he's a pro now too. That umbrella guy that have kind of banded together into this little group of, and I know that there's other guys I'm forgetting, but into this little group where we share information with one another, and we try to help each other out with what we know. And as such, if we take that positivity we have towards each other and we put it outwards too, people will start to pick up on it, and they're going to see the people who are negative and are focusing on things like that or are grifting even, and they'll start to ignore them as time goes on. And because I'll be honest on something, because there are people that just get into this that have no clue what's going on, and you can tell they're grifting. Here's a question, and this is going to be a little political. How do you read anything or watch anything that Jack Posobiec does?
I am familiar with the name. I know of him, but I can't say that I've ever seen any of his stuff or that I can recall. I mean,
do you remember the guy who was shouting, "You all are jerk Goebbels" at Shakespeare in the Park?
I don't know if I've seen that. Honestly, I don't know if I've honestly seen that, bro.
Okay, well, that's kind of the point though, is that he is a right-wing journalist who's kind of a goof. I think that's the nicest way I could put it. He's a goof. Yeah. As a person. He's done some good work, but he's really goofy. But he's doing a campaign with Chuck Dixon and Brett Smith, both of whom I'm friendly with, that is kind of a hard sell, and is about Jack Posobiec, this, not high-end journalist, as a secret agent. And I'm like, that's kind of funny. That kind of sounds like it has novelty, but let's be honest. If it was Ben Shapiro as a secret agent, it'd be that much funnier.
Yeah, it would.
So that's the thing. It's like you're trying to sell us on Jack Posobiec's secret agent, and it doesn't really. Maybe it'll be a funny book. I'm hoping it is because it's Chuck writing it. Chuck's got a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
But I look at the campaign. I'm like, guys, this is a hard sell. Because you're asking $25 for a 20-page for a 36. For a 22-page book. 32-page book, and I'm like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And hopefully they get it, because I want Chuck Dixon to not work with Vox Day anymore. But as it stands, it's like you can tell that like that their goal is $60,000 and they've only got 24 more days to hit it. And I'm like, that's a lot for a short book that you're asking for. But that's sort of a grifter's mentality.
Hardboiled Entertainment said, and I guess this is in reference to what you said about Ben Shapiro, a secret agent whose wife is a doctor.
Yeah, exactly. But no, that's generally my issue with it, is that my thing is that there are people that want to come in to it and they're not really comic people.
Yeah.
But they associate with some comic people like Brett, like Chuck. And the problem that I have with it is like, are you really entertaining people? Are you really going to be able to sustain something long term? Because Trump's Space Force was successful because it was a hilarious concept.
Yeah.
But I'm not convinced that Trump's Space Force 2, and I say this just as a business guy, would have as much of an effect, even if it is Chuck Dixon returning, Brett doing the colors, and Timothy Lim doing the art. That's a good team. It's a very good team. But I would rather see that team work on a new superhero with Chuck writing it. And I think that would be $100,000 book.
Yeah, well, like you said, the novelty kind of wears off after that first one there. It's just going to get it's with all things, but exactly, it's just like that seems like a one and done concept anyways. Because it's timely. It's only, it's within this time frame now. It's not something it's not something that can really have an existence beyond maybe another 4 years of him being in office.
Exactly. Right? You're dating yourself is the basic idea. I thought that one of the most brilliant things that Tim and Brett did was get together with Douglas Ernst and do Soul Finder. Because Soul Finder,
I donated to that. Yeah, that's what I'm expecting.
That one's going to be good. And I don't know how good of a writer fiction-wise Douglas is, but at the same time, nobody knows how good I am either. So just to be fair, but I know how good Brett is. I know how good Tim is. And I've wanted these guys to be on a comic together for a while now. That's the sort of stuff that I would like to see them do more of, is create these interesting high concept comic books with art that blows your damn mind, which Tim is very capable of. And Brett's color work is next level. Yeah. These sorts of things are the sort of things that are going to move the industry forward, because what people aren't looking for Donald Trump stuff, and that's my, at least not long term. Affectionate parody is good in doses, but if you shove it all the time, there's not that many big time Trumpkin fans of Donald Trump that are out there buying comic books. There's not that many. So. And that's just sort of my thought. It's like, what you're really going to make money with long term is high concept comic books, because that's what the independent crowd likes, and that's what they will continue to buy. If you can introduce a cool looking superhero, it's got to have a twist. Like with Englewood, I think that and just to be self-critical, is that one of the biggest weaknesses of my campaign was the fact that it's not high concept. It's actually very grounded. Yeah. Like my original idea for Englewood was going to be it would have felt more like The Wire than it would have Batman. And it still has elements of that in there. It does feel like I was writing, like the original concept was an HBO show, but that's what I was going for when I first started on it. And then as time went on, I'm like, you know what? Nah, screw that. I'm going to make more comic booky stuff. Like the next thing, like So I'll kind of give a preview for people who are watching. So with Englewood, this comic is 36 pages. It's an issue and a half. So pretty decent length for $10, you know. But the next book that we do for Englewood is just going to be called Englewood the First Year. And it's going to be another, like, basically the conclusion of this arc as a graphic novel. And that will be the next campaign for Englewood. But the next arc after that is a arc that I call Day of the Assassin, where one of the gimmicks of the story is that there are there's three gangs that have three gangs that have high-ranking assassins in them.
Okay.
And it's basically going to be 6 issues long and about the three gangs colliding. One of them is a predominantly African-American gang that I've talked about before called the Prophets that are based on the oh God, what are they called? I have a Latin Kings parallel in there, but I don't think they're called the Street Prophets. But they're the same gang that the Saints from Saints Row are based on. Okay. But there's them, and they are run by a group called the Seven Gun Council. 7 different assassins who have been gang members for years now, who several of which have military training, and aside from running the street gang, they also work assassinations across the globe and in different capacities. And they are partially what keeps the mafia in power too, because that's who they work for as well. And they, of course, like smuggle drugs for them and do their security and things like that. So they're sort of 2 gangs in one, in a sense. But the thing is because they and the mafia have so much turf in Chicago, there are 2 other mafia-esque organizations that are moving into Chicago for the first time that have their own assassins that are causing trouble. One of which is the Yakuza, who have literally hired ninjas. Yeah. And then, and you might like the concept for this one. Then there are the Triads, who have been slowly inching in as well recently in the area. And their whole gimmick is that the number 2 person for the leader of the Triads is a really, really young guy. I haven't given him a name yet. But she, the assassin, who I also don't have a name yet for either, her big gimmick is this. So, and this is a little bit of my brainstorming process for you, is her gimmick is that when she was young and living in China, her father was the son of a kung fu master, Wing Chun specifically. So, what's the name of it? Ip Man sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So this kid, or at one point, a member of the Triad tries to accost her when she's 16 years old, and in rage, the father kills the gang member. Well, the gang member was the son of the Triad boss for the whole region.
Wow.
So in retaliation, they kill the father and they take the daughter. They give the daughter a new instructor. They lock her in a dungeon, basically. And her new instructor is like Pai Mei from Kill Bill. Brutal guy. Yeah. And by the time she has mastered Wing Chun and other forms of Kung Fu, she kills him. Well, during her time in this dungeon, she actually befriends the other son of the Triad leader. Together, they kill his father. He takes over and tries to move into America through Chicago. Wow. So she will be basically this. My imagination for it is that the lead character, Elijah, was known for his aggressiveness. He's not a counterpuncher. He can counter-strike, but it's not his specialty. He was a swarmer.
Pressure fighter.
Exactly. And the problem is that a pressure fighter can get bodied by a good counter-striker. Look at Forrest Griffin versus Anderson Silva.
Yep.
So that's what she is. Wing Chun as a kung fu art is a counter-striking art. Now, it's largely nonsense as a martial art too, but it's a comic book. I can have fun with it.
Yeah, of course, exactly. You can.
So,
those are the liberties you can take with stuff like that.
Yeah, I just imagined this this little detente of he's throwing these Muay Thai strikes and she blocks them and then suddenly does the Ip Man with the fist right to his chest and then just like does a short uppercut to his face. It's not super damaging, but it gets his attention. You know, stuff like that I thought would be this really conflicting idea. And then the ninja family, I've actually come up with like they're the last lineage of a clan of ninjas, and they are they're closely related to Elijah's past. Okay. He actually trained with them, but not in the art of ninjutsu. Mm-hmm. He trained with them because the daughter of the family decided to go out into the world and become a mixed martial artist herself, and they dated for a while.
Oh, okay.
So he and
history.
Yeah, so and Isaac's trainer encouraged him to go to different countries and train. So he went to Holland, he went to Thailand, you know, he went to Japan, he went to Brazil. You know, he also has a Brazilian jiu-jitsu coach who would travel with him when this was going on. Hmm. So he actually has these ties to a ninja clan that he didn't even know about. So that'll, you know, that arc is going to be huge. I think that whenever basically the next book will be that the end of that first year, then the arc after that shows you Isaiah's next costume that he wears, which you'll see in this book of Englewood. You'll meet his trainers who take over his gym for him. You'll start seeing the Rogues Gallery really come together, and it'll be that book whenever it comes out. Will be one people will not want to miss. Like, you don't want to miss this one either, because this book is 36 pages of top-notch dialogue from me, because that's honestly one of my two specialties. My other specialty is fight scenes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good ones in this. A lot of good action.
People like fighting, man. People like action, bro. And the good thing is that you understand martial arts. I think, at least to me, you know, from the conversations we've had, I think you have a pretty good grasp of martial arts and mixed martial arts to translate that over into a comic book that'll make sense. Of course, you know, it's fiction, so there's going to be some exaggerations taken, because that's just how fiction is. But the thing is, you have a good enough understanding to also still make it make sense for those people that might be like, you know, very sticklers about stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
That's good.
Let me actually do something fun here. Let's debut another page, because
do it.
I have
put it up there.
I have a new page that Brian just finished the line work on that I think looks fantastic. So this right here basically highlights the life of Elijah Wallace after his mixed martial arts career. He of course at the top here is mentoring students. I like how Brian threw a little bit of a I can't believe why am I forgetting the name of the show? Boondocks. He threw a freaking Boondocks reference in here, because anybody who's watched the Boondocks will know who his character is.
That's Huey.
Yep. So, but this is his father, and shows them mentoring kids at a tutoring program. This is him training his top prospect, Angelica, who was a prodigy when it came to Taekwondo, but in her first mixed martial arts fight, she didn't realize how outgunned she was. She attempts to throw a spinning hook kick and gets dragged to the ground by a Brazilian jiu-jitsu expert, choked out within less than a minute.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is, of course, him teaching MMA at his gym as well. So this is this is the next page. It really gives you an idea that of who this guy is. He's not just this big bro of a character. He is somebody who has a history, and he has a heart too. He doesn't just want to sit idle with all of his money and just sit there in Chicago forever. He wants to do something to make it a better place. He wants to start training the next generation of martial artists. He wants to be a teacher. And as such, you know, that's what he has in front of him. And he's not a brute either. He's not some guy who just came off the streets. He's college educated. You know, his degree was in history. And he was a very good student too. So, but he was a wrestler, so he poured himself into everything.
Yeah.
And so this kind of I think shows him as a character of discipline. He's a martial artist. He's not, and this is one thing people have kind of accused me of trying to make Black Batman. I'm not trying to make Black Batman. If anything, this is Black Shang-Chi, but with technology.
There you go.
So, which will come in time, and he does not invent it. I don't want him to be a walking plot device like how Scott Snyder did Batman. I want him to struggle. I want him to be a specialist in one thing, and he has to rely on other people. He has to start trusting other people to help him, with this crusade of his.
Yeah, and I think that's going to differentiate him like that. I mean, I don't see him like even from the initial the initial things you had said about him. I didn't draw that kind of parallel and say, oh, he seems like, the African American version of Batman. I didn't think any of that. I was just like, he's not Black Batman. I mean, from the beginning, it seemed to me like he's his own guy and doing his own thing. From all the ways you explained it beforehand. So, I mean, look, people are going to say what they're going to say, but I can't wait to read it, man.
Yeah, this right here, this page this is the one previous beforehand. This might be so far my favorite page of the comic because of how much storytelling it is in one image.
Yeah.
This is basically the end of his career. He's going out partying constantly. He's injured, taking pills, out with women, and he crashes. And it's this image right here of him is just the look of a man who understands that he lost big time. And he knows that there's no way back to the top of that mountain. Not in a good way. So it is and what I really like about this, if I recall correctly, I had this originally in panels when I wrote the script, and then Brian took the panels out completely and instead put in this panelless feel to it. And when Armand colors it and finishes coloring it, it will look beautiful. Because let me show you this one that he just sent me. Because one criticism that we got was that a little bit too much use of like motion blur. So this is how the pages will look when they're colored.
Yeah, that looks great, man. Looks fantastic. Oh, Tug in the stream. Hey, Tug. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Devil Hunter Nero. Oh, we got a couple people coming in.
So yeah, this campaign and this book has I put a lot of myself in and a lot of my heart and soul into this book, and I hope it shows. I really hope it does. I think when people read it, they will see that.
Yeah, I think so too, man. I mean, like I said, it comes across to me, man. And the thing is, I'm not gonna. Obviously, I didn't see your writing and stuff back when you used to write for. I mean, I've seen some of your newer articles and stuff on Bleeding Fool and things like that, but I haven't followed your writing much because, again, I knew of Blistered Thumbs back in the day, but I didn't. You know what I mean? That's not a site that I really frequented all that much, and if I did, I didn't really. I kind of would gloss over stuff when I did. So that's something that actually I did want to ask you about while I have you here in regards to writing, because you see it now more and more with a lot of these, journalists, where they're not about trying to tell a story about anything. It's just about activism. It's about them basically just getting on a soapbox to preach to people. And it's obvious, at least from the few things I've seen that you have written, you are a person that is very much interested in trying to tell a story about something, with the information, given the information that's available. Not so much about, trying to say, well, you know what, let me get on this soapbox and proselytize, my worldview solely. So that's something.
Yeah, that's a big thing about writing that I believe in. First off, I think that your heart and your values will show through your work, and the things that you care about will show through your work if you just write and you don't aim for there to be a soapbox. Anybody who knows me as a man, when you read this book, you're going to see pieces of me in there and the things that I care about. But to those who don't know me that well, they will look and they're just going to see a kick-ass, surprisingly deep comic book. But I think that that's something that is a problem in the modern day of comics, is that you don't really see a lot of people that are willing to just write, and show their characters. Maybe they're afraid of it. I would imagine it's probably the thing with just Zoe Quinn, that's for sure. That's a whole nother can of fish. But the thing is, your values will come through.
Yeah.
I look at Mark Waid and his first Captain America run, which is an all-time classic. Yeah. And there's part of Mark Waid's values in that book.
Yeah.
And I think that, his obvious fear of the Nazi regime and fascism and things like that was present even back then.
Yeah.
But at the time, there was no narrative that one side or another was the Nazis just lying in wait. It was the 90s. The world was a lot different back then, or at least the political world was a lot different back then. So there wasn't as much paranoia, but it was a fear that you could see in his work. But at the same time, because he wasn't looking to proselytize to you, he was just trying to write a good Captain America comic because that was his job. It comes across more sincere, and those pieces of him that are thoughtful and that are capable of telling a good story were all present. Kingdom Come has some of those elements too. Even though I
was just about to say it, yeah, Kingdom
Come. Even though
has
Alex Ross wrote the general outline of that story, Mark filled it in, and Mark filled it in a really good way. I just wish he wasn't such a prick.
Yeah. And he's one of those guys that I can't separate the art from the artist from. But before even getting into that, just to speak to your point there, that's what I'm saying. What I was saying initially, I mean, I think it's fine that the work that people do, like the work that you do, Ethan, or anybody else that makes a book, obviously is going to be a reflection of you to a degree, because it's something you work on. It's a way for you to express yourself artistically. So there's, of course, going to be a piece of you in there, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having your values be showcased in it either. I think that's perfectly normal. And just like there's people that I know will say, well, I don't want politics in my comics, and that's fine. I don't really want to get a political sermon out of a comic book either. But at the same time, if that's what the writer wants to do, they're well within their right to do it. What I would say is it's okay for you to have something like that in a story, right? As long as it doesn't become the story. Like if it's an aspect to move the story along, that's fine. Even if, part of what you want to do is maybe, I don't know, make it a metaphor for something that you're trying to say politically, that's fine. But as long as you're not force feeding it down the throat of somebody and making them feel that just by them reading it, they have to somehow feel bad about themselves because they don't live up to the vision of what you see as what a good person is,
Yeah, exactly. And that's generally the thing about it is, like, I would watch, or, the old reviews I would do, it's like I would read these books and I'd be like, who's this for? Like America Chavez, all shitty writing aside, let's say that a good lesbian writer did that book, but did the same story, just with not crappy dialogue. I would still be asking, who is this book for? Is it just for lesbians? Well, that's not I always remember the Venn diagrams of like crossover of audiences. It's like lesbians, comic book fans. I don't see a lot of intersection there, which is nothing against people who aren't straight. I'm not denigrating people who are gay. It's just, for some reason, for whatever reason that is, there's not a ton of people who are gay that go to comic book shops. That's just the way that it is. That's and there's nothing wrong with that. People are allowed to choose what they want to get into. But that's the question I ask. Another one was the Unstoppable Wasp. Jeremy Whitley, wrote the book for his daughter. And I'm like, well, nobody likes you, first and foremost, because we have Tug in the audience, and everybody likes Tug. That's the thing.
Everybody are you still there?
But because everybody I think I actually told Tug this. It's like, because everybody likes Tug, because he's a likable dude. Yeah. And loves that he's a family man, just a Southern gentleman family man kind of guy. him doing a comic book about the characterized version of himself and his daughter, that's going to sell because he's already got that established base. Plus, he can make an interesting story out of it. Nobody likes Jeremy Whitley. Nobody knows who he is. And on top of that, nobody knows who this new Wasp is. So why should I care? And you say you wrote it for your daughter. Well, that's sweet. That really is. There's a cool thing about that element of, daddy telling his daughter a good night story, and if I am ever a father myself, I hope to do the same thing. And I hope to do the same thing probably forever, but because I love telling stories. That'll probably be my favorite part of parenting if it ever happens for me. But the thing is, it's like, you're working for Marvel and you're trying to do this comic book about girls in STEM fields. And the only thing that is the purpose of this book is getting women into STEM, and that nothing else. It's not like Nadia Pym is starting this company of engineers because there's this threat from AIM, and they're pooling all these scientists. Well, we need to pool our own scientists who are good people, and while I'm doing it, I can get all these girls into STEM fields because there's all these girl geniuses out there that are being overlooked because maybe they're in poorer neighborhoods or things like that. That general topic is somewhat interesting, but there was never a goal. There was never a villain, and even in the second run, it had suffered from the same freaking problem. When you've got this comic of the Wasp getting ready to pie face the Winter fucking Soldier, I don't want to read it. I don't. Even if it was Gwenpool, which was a funny comic, I still wouldn't want to read it. It's like, okay, what, clown nose on, whatever. So yeah, that's generally the issue. Is like, I get that there are some people out there that don't want to write for straight white males. Well, that's fine, but that's who buys comics.
Yeah.
End of the discussion.
The audience, yeah.
There was one comic I saw that Image was putting out there that had gorgeous art, by the way, that was about basically people like characters of myth like centaurs owning a diner. And I'm like, I am not interested in this at all. The art looks good. It's got this watercolored look to it. Well, that's kind of cool. Still not interested. Yeah. Now, if they were fighting off the Empire or something, well, maybe I'd be a little more interested. Another one is a book called The Wicked and the Divine that I've been paid to review. And I've been working my way through it. And it is at least quasi-interesting because it's bloody. It's got action to it and stuff like that. And it has an intriguing concept, but it's also written for Antifa fucking sympathists, it seems like, than it does like actual guys like you and me who would be entertained by this idea of gods coming to Earth and being total divas that kill people. Like that almost sounds like a Warren Ellis idea, So, but that's just the way it is. People just don't get it. It's like, if you want to make money, if you want to do things in comic books, you got to aim for the biggest, broadest audience you can get. And if that's straight white males, do it, man. You can still tell cool stories with female protagonists that men will read. Do you think that Wonder Woman got popular in the 1940s off the backs of female readers? No. Fuck no. That's not how it happened. Most people who saw the Wonder Woman movie, which I really like, were dudes. When I saw Captain Marvel, most of the people in the theater were dudes.
Yeah. And that's just it. And the thing is, even in this day and age, look, you could write any character can potentially be relatable as long as you do a realistic take on them, right? Like, why is Spider-Man such a great character and why his race doesn't matter at all? Because of his problems. His problems, anybody can relate to them, despite what age they are, despite what, gender they are, despite, what race they are. It doesn't matter. It's just like his problems are problems that anybody can get. That's the beauty of Spider-Man, is that really when you look at him, you can imagine anybody being under that mask.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter. That's the beauty of that character.
And that was one thing that I respected Brian Michael Bendis for doing during his time with Marvel when he was writing the solo Miles Morales series, is he had Miles actually take a point to say, I don't want to be the Black Spider-Man. I just want to be Spider-Man. that the title of Spider-Man means something to him as a person. It's something because he, idolized the original. He wants to live up to that example that Peter Parker has set. Yeah. And that I think makes him where he could be interesting. I'm of the opinion, honestly, that with Amazing Spider-Man and with Miles Morales Spider-Man, you should be doing two separate types of stories. With Miles here, you've got a teenager. Tell the teenage style stories of back in the 1970s that fucking Quesada is obsessed with. Yeah. With Nick Spencer, let him tell adult Spider-Man. Let him get MJ back together, which I'm sorry, guys, it's not going to happen. They're planning a marriage between Black Cat and Spider-Man. Oh. Why Felicia instead of MJ again? I don't understand. We've gone down this road before. They also won't let Felicia be her own character either. But yeah, it's like you can have your adult Spider-Man and you can have your kid Spider-Man instead of black Spider-Man, white Spider-Man. But it's current year. I'm not allowed to think that way. But that's how I would do it. I would be writing like Silver Age style stories if I was given Miles Morales. I would have him focus on being a teenager and having teenage problems. And then with Peter Parker, because he's already gone through all that, I would have him be the adult and have the adult problems and the adult fears and the adult villains like Venom behind me or Carnage, and God, Absolute Carnage has been a riot. But anyway, it's the only event in years I've read every single book attached to it. That's saying something.
I haven't read all the other stuff attached to it. I have been reading just the main story for it. So I've just stuck to that. So I don't know what else is going on outside of just, the Absolute Carnage books themselves.
I'll fill you in there. Cause I've read Donny Cates's Venom is the only thing I've read. And this series is the last I'm buying with Marvel for a long time because the fact that they hired Zoe Quinn. I'm not buying from DC anymore either, which sucks because I dropped Red Hood and the Outlaws, which is a great book. And I dropped Deathstroke, which is written by Christopher Priest, my friggin' hero, too, because of it. But with Priest, he's doing Vampirella now, too. So I'm going to read that instead. Yeah. But anyway.
You got options.
Exactly. And Priest wished me well on Englewood, actually. So that was really cool.
Oh, snap. Maybe you could you're going to send him a copy, man, to maybe you can review.
I don't know how I could get it to him, but I am tempted to ask Hatman to find out how to.
Dude, you got it. You got to get one in his hands, bro. That would be awesome. Have him take a picture with it too.
I think I should. I really think I should. Because like I said, the guy's my hero. He and then Jim Starlin. Like I need to get a Black Panther poster to put right here next to Eddie and Beta Ray Bill. But anyway, it's like I've got like characters from some of my favorite writers behind me. I've got Walt Simonson, Beta Ray Bill. I've got David Michelini with Venom, and then of course original Jim Starlin art.
Boom.
Well, that's what it's based on. I didn't buy original, but Thanos as well. That's the cover to Thanos #6, I think, and he's kneeling in front of the grave of Marvel. Like that's one of the most iconic Thanos images I've ever seen. But anyway.
That's fantastic stuff too. I'm sure you've read some of the Jim Starlin stuff that he did with the original Captain Marvel.
Oh yeah, I love those books.
Yeah, it's good
stuff.
stuff.
Death of Captain Marvel is one of the best graphic novels of all time.
Oh yeah, absolutely, bro. I read it. Finally got a chance to read it for the first time a couple months back, and I'm just like this. It's one of those things you read it, you hear about it, right? You hear about how good it is.
Oh yeah,
but when you actually read it, you're just like, yeah, this lives up to the hype. This is absolutely one of the best graphic novels ever written. Period.
Jim Starlin, he made the cosmic scene what it is.
Oh, absolutely.
He gave the history of those characters. Marvel, the Silver Surfer, he had one of the best Silver Surfer runs of all time. Thanos obviously created him. Then there's Adam Warlock and the Infinity Watch, and then this Thanos series plus the Infinity Trilogy of Gauntlet, War, and Abyss, I think. Yeah, the Infinity Abyss. So, and then he did another Infinity comic later on about Thanos post Infinity event, the one that Hickman wrote. So, but anyway, back to the Absolute Carnage thing. The basic premise is that there is this symbiote god called Null that is entrapped in the center of the planet of the symbiotes, and he's trying to get out. And he's using carnage to try to do it, but to do so, he needs to gain power by absorbing these things called, codices, codexes, basically.
Codexes, yeah, that's right.
And they're embedded in the spine. But how it came to beforehand is that Venom managed to kill an avatar of Null. But after that, Null found a way to basically create a cult, and now has empowered Carnage with his abilities, making him that much more powerful. And to the point where where Carnage killed a spirit of vengeance with ease.
Dang.
Yeah. Like the female spirit of vengeance in South Africa from the from the Jason Aaron run. Like he killed her with no problems, ripped her spine out and everything, and absorbed her abilities, and beat the shit out of Danny Ketch.
Dang.
That's saying something. Danny's pretty powerful.
Yeah, he is.
So and he basically bodied Venom, and it's his whole run has been so good.
Yeah,
but
he just got to change his attitude, man. He's just got to come back before it's too late. He's got to not go over that line.
Yeah, because the next thing you're going to start shitting on all the fans and all this other stuff, and it's just not gonna go anywhere, man. It's just not gonna do anything for your career.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And it's funny that it's crazy because it hasn't been that long. If you've seen it, it's still pretty early on. But it's the thing is, you could already see like it's been only a few years, right? Maybe a little bit longer in the cases of some of these other writers, but you see it, man. The numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. Like they see it, but the thing is, then they always want to play these mental gymnastics and try to say it's not because of that, it's because of something else. And it's just like, no, man. Sometimes the simplest answer is the right answer. You know what I mean? You got to call a spade a spade here. Like I don't know why it is that they choose to continue to play this game where they're just in straight up denial. They don't want to face the fact, and it's just like, bro, it is what it is. It's just like it's right there in front of your face, and you could sit here and lie to yourself and try to lie to the people that follow you all you want and say it's not that, but the numbers don't lie. You know what I mean? We're seeing it with Ethan. We saw it with Richard. I mean, bro, even to a lesser extent, you know what I mean? And some other people, man. The numbers don't lie, man. The numbers tell you all you need to know. It's right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Tug. Look at Tug, man. You know what I mean?
And if the big thing is if you have a heart for fans and you have a heart for your fan base, they pick up on it. They pick up on it immediately, and it you will be successful. You just have to keep have the confidence to continue to build. So yeah, I really wish that and I'm hoping that more mainstream writers will pick up on that, because one thing that I have noticed about, and this has been told to me from other people, is a lot about older writers like Walt Simonson, like Christopher Priest, like Peter David. They are very appreciative of old school fans and they love them. It's like Jim Starlin was so appreciative of, and I think I showed this last time I was on my signed copy of the Thanos Quest.
Yeah.
He was so appreciative that I brought, or rather Hatman brought that specific comic to him to sign. He told us the opening of Endgame.
Wow.
And told, and like specifically mentioned that the armor on the Scarecrow, which is an iconic shot from Infinity Gauntlet, was reproduced in the film. And I'm like, oh, yes. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and that's great, man. And the thing is, you notice that the stuff that they like, look, Peter David's still out there writing. I mean, he's written what did he do recently? He did Symbiote Spider-Man, but he's done a couple of one-shots too.
Yeah, he was doing Scarlet Spider before that too.
Yeah, so I mean, the guy's still in the industry, and the thing is, look, there's a good chance that a lot of these old school writers probably have more of a we'll say left-leaning probably ideology, but the thing is, they understand that it's okay for people to think different. It's okay for us to not be on that same page in terms of beliefs or ideology, but I can appreciate you for what you are, which is a good and loyal customer, even if we disagree on some certain values and things of that nature. You read my work, and I appreciate you reading my work, and I'm going to continue to focus on what brought me to the dance, which is writing a good work that you like, and I like the fact that you like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. See, because there's very talented guys out there that Oop, I don't know why I did that. Because I was actually looking up. I couldn't remember his name. The guy who's writing Immortal Hulk, Al Ewing. He's a super talented writer. But the worst issues of Immortal Hulk are whenever he injects politics into them. And it's a book that should be and could be the best Hulk run since Peter David. But I think it has the potential to be better than what is his name, who wrote World War Hulk and Planet Hulk?
Wasn't that Greg Pak?
Greg Pak, yeah. It could be better than Greg Pak's run, but it won't be because he's so focused on politics. Jason Aaron, his run with Thor leading up to War of the Realms could have been even better than when he started and did the Gore the God Butcher saga. Could have been better than that. Too focused on politics. Too focused on taking digs at guys like Eric July and stuff like that. It's like, why the fuck do you care? Just write a good comic. What do you care what his opinion is? It's so fucking stupid. Like, they even brought up the argument of it's a name, not a title in an issue of Avengers. It's like, if you stop getting politics involved, if you stop dating your work like that, you have some of these guys have the potential to be all-time greats, to be mentioned with guys like Peter David, like Christopher Priest, like David Michelini, like Jim Starlin. They're not going to get there because of their attitude and their politicization. I think Donny Cates will get there because if nothing else, Donny Cates' Venom work does not involve any politics.
Yeah.
But like Immortal Hulk suffers from that. Other books will suffer from that. I think Nick Spencer's Captain America and that event that he did, which Secret Empire, have buried his legacy. Even if he has the best, Spider-Man run since JMS, it's not going to matter. He still wrote the worst Captain America of all time until Ta-Nehisi Coates took over and then wrote the even worst.
I was like, are you sure? Because Ta-Nehisi Coates, man, he's on it right now. So
Coates' Captain America is probably, like, of what I've seen of it, is easily one of the worst comics of all time. It, like, the most recent issue is like talking about incels. And I'm like, we are reaching America Chavez levels of bad here. Like, what are you doing? He's an idiot.
Yeah.
And I write better black people than he does. What does that say?
Well, here's the thing, though. Also, I mean, he's another one of those people that really has, and look, and it's not, I don't like making, I don't try to focus too much on these arguments from authority, but in some cases, we gotta call it how it is, right? He's another one of these people that really has no business writing comics.
Oh yeah,
he just doesn't. Him, Zoe Quinn, people like that. It's like, why are you writing comic books? You have no business writing comic books. It's obvious that you really don't understand how to write these. You know what I mean? It's pretty obvious to anybody that actually has been reading comic books for a long time. There's just like you don't know. You don't get it. You don't understand how all this works. He should not be writing comic books. That's one of those guys that should not. He should be writing, period. Because I mean, even the stuff that he has written in terms of books is nothing but propaganda. Anyways, it's a bunch of garbage.
Yeah.
But especially not comic books though. It's just like, nah, bro.
And that's generally the issue, is they brought in these political actors, and because Sana Amanat is, she's the cousin of Huma Abedin. She's politically involved with the Democratic Party behind the scenes. Because of that, and because their goal is to get as much into culture as they can, she has used Marvel Comics to do that. And for some reason, the people at Marvel are fucking frightened to fire her ass. Because she's only an editor.
Comic business either.
Yeah,
that's another one. She has absolutely no business being an executive at Marvel. She doesn't. She, at least.
And that's the funny part. She's not even an executive, but she holds, just as one of the editors holds a ridiculous amount of power behind the scenes from what I've been told from insiders. Like anything that she suggests, the higher ups will rarely tell her no. And I'm like, what the hell? Why does this woman have somebody like, even though I don't like him, why am I for why does she have Quesada by the balls?
Yeah.
Why does she have their current editor-in-chief by the balls? This isn't Cebulski. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, who the fuck is she? And it's because it's because of this, because the instant that they fire her ass, there's immediately going to be a think piece in the Huffington Post about how Marvel no longer likes women. They know that because she's politically connected. There will instantly be a whole narrative tomorrow if that were to happen, which is why the only way that Marvel will ever improve is if the board steps in and cleans house, which will never fucking happen. They don't. Nobody there has the balls to pull the trigger on what it will take to improve the house that Stan built.
Yeah, well, I think that that's also why we see like a person like Zoe Quinn, who is just like, it's laughable that she's getting the work that she is, right? Especially given current events. But it's one of those things you could tell the reason why they don't want to, fire, obviously, is just like they see, they know that they at least know well enough that, okay, she's connected to all these different shill sites that are gonna write hit pieces on us, and we just don't want the bad press. So we'll just keep her along because, as soon as they fire her, because and they'll have good reason to do it. I mean, they have good reason to do it now, not even because of the controversy. I mean, she doesn't sell.
Yeah.
She doesn't sell. She doesn't, again, numbers don't lie. They prove that. So they would have more than enough. They would have more than enough grounds to fire her, but why won't they? Because as soon as they do, she's going to do what she's always done. She's going to claim the victim status. Oh, they're doing this because I'm a woman, because of XYZ reasons, because this, that, or the other. And then all of a sudden you're going to have, sites like, Kotaku, Polygon, and whoever else, writing hit pieces on Marvel saying how sexist they are because they fired her and blah, 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 blah. And it's ridiculous, man. It's crazy that it's gotten to that point where you have somebody that obviously a true person that is actually toxic. Is going to be more toxic for your company the longer that you keep them around, but you're so afraid to fire them because of the backlash you might get over it. It's just like, yo, it's worth it. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, look, she eventually that like with her too, that's eventually going to get old to the point where no matter what she does and says, it's going to fizzle out. That's going to run its course too at some point. There's only so many times you're going to be able to punch that victim card before nobody's having it no more. It's just like, nah. Even the people that are, fans of hers, they're going to realize, no. You cried wolf one too many times, and even we can't, we can't defend it anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
And that's generally the issue that I see like going forward with that company and DC as well, is that because they are unwilling to put politics secondary in their work, they will continue to trend downward. Dan DiDio, who I have heard from Ethan and others, is actually a really, really nice guy. So that's why I don't trash him as much as I do Quesada, because I hear nothing good about Quesada from people who've met him.
Well, Quesada, the way and not that I'm saying that we should just solely base him on, say, what he posts on social media and stuff like that. Because, sometimes, look, that's not necessarily an indication of how a person really is in real life. Sometimes people put on a certain hat and portray themselves a certain way, and they could be completely different offline. He might actually be a chill dude that somebody might want to get, a beer with, but because, there's no way to really, get the true meaning, because there are words on a screen, right? So there's no way to really know, okay, well, maybe he didn't really actually mean that, this, that, or the other. But the way he's been putting stuff out, out there within the last couple of years, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good.
Yeah, exactly. The thing that I have just with that though is the with DiDio, and him, Jim Lee, playing dumb about why nobody is buying digital. Well, it's like you can only pretend that your stock is no good for so long.
Yeah.
You know, and that's generally the issue is they put their heads in the sand. They're ostriches. You know, it's just like poof, like they don't pull their heads out to look around them. If they did, they'd realize what's going on. They'd realize why people are walking away. And what's funny about it to me is that Marvel does like this shop summit every year, I think at Comic-Con. And the last year I remember was a big story that all these store owners were like, your books suck. How am I supposed to sell anything? How am I supposed to sell this? And the fact that they will not improve and they don't care just shows that, you know, they just don't have any interest in growing comic books anymore, which is so stupid.
Yeah,
because
it's sad.
they could have a booming digital market easily. Yeah.
See, and I don't understand that mentality because it's obvious. It's obvious to me that they're willing to phone in because there's like, well, you know what, Big Daddy, Disney with their endless pockets, you know, it's fine. You know, they can afford the loss, so we'll just do what we want to do. It's just like that seems so ridiculous to me that you wouldn't run a business to its maximum potential, right? To the best of its ability. It's just like just because of wanting to have some, in their minds at least, wanting to have some kind of, you know, moral high ground. And it's just like, listen, you're still a business. And the idea is to make as much money as possible. I'm sure that Disney, Disney, of course, is always going to be there to bail out because they own the company now. But, and yeah, they do, you know, they I guess in some sense you could say, yeah, they can afford to lose a little money here and there. But at the same time, I think they would still be much more happy if you were bringing in a lot more money than you were losing. I mean, obviously there's no harm in that. You know what I mean? That's going to be preferred than to actually taking losses every year on it. It's, you know, it makes no sense to me, man, that they wouldn't try. But I mean, look who's at the helm.
Yeah.
You know,
and
that's all you need to know.
Exactly. It's people who just have no interest in building this industry and continuing to you know, provide something that people want. It's just politics, because they think for some reason that if they have their politics a certain way and they put these in their comics, it's going to prevent people from becoming right wing. I'm like, pal, fuck. Mark Waid's Champions showed that teenagers are dumb, and if you don't know anything about capitalism, you're going to get outmaneuvered by smarter people. Like, that's a right-wing message, you idiot. So, but that's the thing. It's like if I wanted to make somebody vote for Donald Trump, I'd give him an issue of America Chavez. Like instantly they would go to Orange Man Good. You know, it's but that's the problem that I have with it. It's like I think about politics maybe 3 times a day.
Yeah.
You know, and that's two of those are when I'm taking a dump and I'm reading something on my phone.
When you're having personal reflection time.
Exactly. So, and then the other time is like if I'm bored at work and I've got like a 15-minute break and I'll maybe see what's going on in politics, maybe. But usually I would rather just read a book or something like that, or read an old comic, or listen to music. So I don't think about politics very often, and I don't think a lot of people really do, as much as they'd like to say they do.
Yeah.
You know, so trying to push this into the things that we are trying to escape from makes no sense. You know, if you want to say what killed Star Wars, it's politics. Yeah. Ryan Johnson, a millionaire Ryan Johnson lectured people on capitalism in a fucking Star Wars movie. Are you serious? You know, it ruined Star Wars. It really did. What's ruining comics? Politics. Politics suck. They really ruin everything. You know, I don't need political ideas constantly in comic books. Like, you can kind of use them for flavor on occasion. Yeah. The Question is a really good example of that. Because Steve Ditko's politics definitely are reflected in his Question work. Yeah. Because he was an objectivist, full on Ayn Rand, you know, and the Question has elements of that, which I couldn't believe that I didn't put two to two, and people are going to shame me for this. I didn't put two and two together. That the guy who voiced him in Justice League Unlimited, the Question, is the voice of Dr. Herbert West from Reanimator. Or is the guy who played him. I'm like, how did I not figure that out? The voice sounded familiar, and I'm like, why can I not place it? Then there's this channel I like called Dead Meat. That one of the few YouTube channels I watch that was going through the Reanimator films, and then I heard the voice again, and I'm like, that's him. That's the Question. What the fuck? And he also did Brainiac in the most recent Injustice, which I didn't really like him as, but that's just me. But then again, I don't like Alien Brainiac. I like Brainiac 2 a lot more. But that's the Superman the Animated Series fan talking.
Bro, that the animated series, that's an underrated anime series in my opinion.
Yeah, it gets overshadowed by Batman, but I think it's almost as good.
Yeah, it's definitely, man. Especially, I love a lot of the story arcs that they did in that. And the thing is, just those Bruce Timm-esque animated shows were fantastic, man. They really set, I think they set the bar pretty high in terms of good storytelling in those types of shows, and the superhero types of shows. Because I mean, when you look at like the X-Men cartoon in the 90s, what made it great, man? Majority of the stories, for one, were based off of Claremont's run on the X-Men, which lasted close to 20 years, I think.
Like that, yeah,
or something like that. And then you had, the Spider-Man, the Spider-Man animated series just as great. I mean, they just don't make it. And the thing is, they're not going to make them like that anymore, man. You can just tell that from here going forward, it's going to be about checking off the boxes and just,
all the people who are interested in writing those comics are on the independent scene. Yeah. There was a tweet thread I was in a couple days ago with some other indie writers. It's like you look at the comics that we're on, and you could easily figure out what we would be good at. People instantly see Englewood and they hear me talk about it. It's like, that guy should be writing Daredevil. That guy should be writing Batman, which I would do in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
You look at my boy Zach. You should be doing like an X-Force book.
Oh yeah,
you should be doing a team with Cable and Deadpool and some other wacky like C-list X-Men characters, but it would be a top seller because the way he writes is he's basically writing the Expendables, which is a fun hell movie. Obviously Ethan did Green Lantern. In reading Cyberfrog, I know you haven't gotten it yet. I will say this: Ethan should be writing and drawing Spider-Man. Wow, I'm dead serious. He should be writing and drawing Spider-Man with the way that he does Cyberfrog.
Read it.
Cal Jameson should be doing like the Incredible Hulk. You pick a horror character, you give it to Von Klaus, it's going to be an interesting comic. Yeah. Me personally, I personally think that whenever you see my next two books, you're going to look at that and go, he should be writing the X-Men. No. And I should be. But to be fair, Jonathan Hickman's going to be on the book for a while, so
that's good.
I will never say put me ahead of Jonathan Hickman. He's too good. Like also like this X-Men series he's done is amazing.
Yeah, it's good. I've enjoyed it a lot so far. I think and I wasn't familiar with his work prior to, but I definitely initially when I read the first House of X, I wasn't like convinced of anything. I'm like, okay, let's see. And then once, Powers of X, or I think it was maybe the one after the first Powers of X, that's when I was really like, ooh, that's when it really that's when I was like, okay, all right, now I'm into this. Now you've piqued my interest. Now I want to know more. So, and it's been great. And it's been great since, I think. So,
yeah, I love how Hickman has such an abstract way of thinking.
Yeah,
and that's how he comes up with some really neat ideas. But he's obsessed, I think, with the concepts of philosophical concepts of creation and destruction.
Yeah,
and I think that's what drives his work, because that's what a lot of his best work has been about. That's what his Fantastic Four was about. That's which led into his Avengers, that's what that was about. The first arc was one about creation, the character of Ex Nihilo being introduced. And that the makers and the builders, but then it was an apocalypse story too. And then he's got this book that he's doing on the indies called East of West, which is about Armageddon, in a world where the Civil War never ended. Like I love that concept. And now he's got this, which is kind of the end and rebirth of the X-Men in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and you can see it. You can see it in the writing. All right, take care, Devil Hunter Nero. Appreciate you stopping by. But yeah, no, I can see in the writing, like you could see that's kind of eminent in this whole storyline, this House of X, Powers of X.
Yep, and that's one thing that everybody has. I think a lot of people have a shtick. A lot of people have the thing that they dip into. With me, a lot of my my work is about it kind of has roots in theology. I won't lie, but I was a theology student. I was also a philosophy student. And when you listen to me talk about these things, it's kind of obvious. The other thing for me also is Jungian psychology, and the concept of stepping through a shadow to become better. I believe that the way that people become better people, which Jung, I'll even use a music reference. You ever heard the song 46 and 2 by Tool?
I don't think I have. No.
Oh wow.
I grew up listening to old school rock, but also a lot of hip hop growing up.
Fair enough. So, well, Tool wrote a song called 46 and 2, which is basically about Jungian psychology. So Carl Gustav Jung, who is a lot of his writing is what Jordan Peterson bases his work off of. Like he builds off of him. There's another Christian psychologist named Ted Roberts who works with sex addicts, builds a lot off of Jung as well. And the thing about Jung is that he had this concept of the shadow that is a part of the human psyche between two parts. Let me pull up the diagram. I've got it here on my computer. It was between the subconscious and the ego, if I remember correctly. But it's where like the dark element of life is, like the dark element of one's psychology, the monster that everybody fears, that part of themselves that they really don't like. Everybody's got one. And the thing about it. I found the diagram. It goes, you have your persona and your ego, and then the self, and then the shadow on the other side of it. And it's like a concept of say my right hand here is the unconscious. This is the conscious mind. The conscious mind is the persona, the ego, who Micah is, who John is, and then there's self, which stands in the middle. Your subconscious is on the other end. The parts of you can't really control very easily, like your limbic system in your brain, and that's where that shadow dwells. Your instincts, the darker parts of you that work off of fight or flight, don't necessarily aren't as rational. People that you find that can be super calm but can be super violent, the traumas that they've had in their lifetime are contained in that shadow element. And so he believed that going through that and facing what was contained there in that dark side of yourself was the only real way to personal healing in therapy and for self-improvement, is facing your own dark side, learning about why you are the way you are in that level, and you become a much more complete person. So how I bring that into my writing is I truly believe that the only way to build a character is for them to have two enemies. The first enemy needs to be the enemy outside, the existential threat that exists out there, whether it be just a concept in the world around them, or an actual villain. For Elijah, it's the gangs of Chicago. In the next book, 3 Nights, 4 Days, it's the demons that have been summoned by this witch. In Project Lazarus, which is the next book I'm doing, which is basically kind of has an Excalibur feel to it, old Claremont sort of feel. Excalibur, but it also pulls from other darker comics like The Authority and stuff like that. But
fantasy,
it's basically fantasy meets science fiction with the superhero team. Sort of like if you put the X-Men and the game Doom in a blender, or maybe even actually let's do it this way: X-Men, Doom, but sprinkle in some Event Horizon in there too.
There you go.
It's a horror book too. But anyway, but each of the characters, they have that exterior threat. I said existential earlier, I meant exterior. But they've also got an enemy within. they've also got something, they've got a trauma inside of them that they have to overcome alongside overcoming the outside threat. Because to me, that's life. You know, that's part of existence, is that, you know, you grow up and, you know, depending on how you grow up, you know, you're going to have these, you know, these reactions to things like that. People who have chips on their shoulders, you'll find that they often grew up poor, you know, so they had a lot of stuff and struggles when they were young. You know, you find people who are super arrogant and that don't have much talent. They were probably rich as children, which is why they don't have that same kind of character. They don't have that same hard work and drive that somebody who grew up poor would. Stuff like that. So, but oftentimes throughout life, we're dealing with the enemy inside of us, and we're also dealing with the enemy outside. So that's how I write my stories, is like each of these people, they're not only dealing with a big time, scary and unique exterior threat. There's an interior thing going on in their minds that they have to battle through. And, you know, you can see as part of them, you know, with Elijah and Englewood, you see that it's this character who, you know, had a hard, you know, career as a mixed martial artist and had some shortcomings, and he overcame them, not with grit and determination, but with drugs, you know, and basically doped himself up to the point where he could feel some of his injuries. And, you know, he cheated basically. Yeah. And he has to deal with that part of himself, and he has to redeem himself in 3 Nights, 4 Days. That takes place right after the Second Crusade, quite literally, like 6 months afterwards. No, 3 months afterwards, because they leave Jerusalem, and then it takes them 3 months to get back to England. And like they're fresh out of a war, and they're thrust into fighting hell. Not easy on your brain. No. And there's elements of that you'll see in that book. In Project Lazarus, the lead character, I think we've talked about that book before on here. But for those of you who are watching, basic idea of Project Lazarus: three superheroes. One's a cyborg, one's a psychic, one is basically a mixture of Hulk and the Vision. And the lead character, whose codename is Alpha, he's basically a 20-some-odd-year-old guy with an 18-year-old's mind, because he was in a coma for as long as he was, while he was experimented on by the government to become a super soldier. Wow. So that's his problem, is he survived this really nasty car crash. He has survivor's guilt because his girlfriend was in the car. He should have died because he was hit passenger side by a guy going 50 miles an hour. He should have been very dead. And he was, and his girlfriend is dead, but he survived because of his abilities. So yeah, but that's, you know, that's my philosophy towards writing, is, you know, that part of you comes out. And I think that oftentimes when you see it with people can make for some really great stories, you know. Absolutely. That's the part of yourself you want to pull from. You know, you don't want to pull from this part that wants to preach. You want to pull from this part of you that wants to, for me, to give you a little bit, I've only got about 10 minutes left before I got to go, but to kind of tell you like a little bit of my history, in the good times of my childhood, my favorite moments were sitting in front of my sisters and just telling them a story that I just made up right there, you know, or sitting around a campfire during vacations with my dad, my mom, and my sisters, and telling a scary story that I just came up with. And they were good, you know, but it's that part of me that loves to entertain people and loves to tell these unique stories with unique ideas that I want to pull from. If I were to tell stories about politics, it would basically be Ayn Rand, but with more morals and considerably more boring than it already is. It would not entertain anyone. Nobody would like it. But I'm going to have this Hulk or this guy with the Hulk's powers who looks like Middle Eastern Brock Lesnar bodying demons. That's an easy sell, you know? So, yeah, it's my little rant there about creativity.
No, it's good. And I think a lot of what you're bringing up, I mean, is essential to good storytelling, you know, the overcoming of the adversity, and what you were talking about before with the kind of spirituality that's in. I could already just by you explaining it without even getting into those details, I could see the kind of spirituality you're talking about with Englewood and with seeming, the other works that you're going to be doing as well, which that's fine, man, because my father was a pastor at church, man. So I grew up around it too, man. So I know the deal. And to me, it's always that kind of storytelling is always compelling, because there's so many ways you could tell it, sometimes in the most simplistic of ways, and sometimes you could go even deeper with it. While you were talking about it, it's interesting because I was also thinking about the fighting aspect of it too, the spirit of, the fighting spirit of a man, right?
Yeah.
Like when you were talking about it, it made me think of something that happened in a fight, and that was did you ever see the first time George St. Pierre and BJ Penn fought? You saw the fight?
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if you remember what George St. Pierre said after, the lead up to their second fight. All right, he had said something that I thought was very, and this is why I've always liked George St. Pierre as a fighter, as a mixed martial artist, because he's very sincere when it comes to what happens in the fight. After his fight with BJ Penn, he had, because remember, his eye got pretty badly injured. It got pushed in or whatever.
Yeah.
Due to either a punch or maybe an inadvertent poke by BJ or something, and he was having trouble even seeing out of it. And he talked very candidly about the fact that he was really scared in that fight. Like when that happened, that kind of like shook him a little bit, because he's like, oh my gosh, like what am I going to do? He still ended up winning the fight by split decision, but it was like, that's not something you typically hear a lot of fighters say, because a lot of them have this attitude of, invincibility, or, they don't want to admit things like that, either due to pride, or the fact that they have to keep up some degree of machismo or image, whatever it might be. And to me, that was one of those things that really said a lot about his character as a person. Oh, yeah. Not just as a fighter, because he was willing to admit the fact that, hey, look, this happened to me, and I was legit scared, and I didn't know, I was just like, man, I'm going to lose this fight, and all that doubt that came in, but he overcame it. And that's the most impressive part about it. And I think that's something that, speaks to a lot of people, and what'll speak to a lot of people when you write stuff like that, when you convey it in a way that people are just like, I can relate, or I can understand this, this character's journey, this struggle that they're overcoming, because either I know somebody that has gone through it, or I've gone through it myself, and things like that. I think that's a beautiful thing, man, in writing those kind of stories with those kind of characters, and that kind of just overarching message, I guess you could say. So that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to, like I said, is it with your story, seeing how, because of these problems that he made up for himself, that your character made up for himself, how he struggles with them, and how he overcomes with them, and how there's a degree of penance there because of his past actions, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's it's interesting, like the mixed martial artists that I pulled from with creating Elijah, is that I wanted him to be like physically like a John Jones, or Daniel Cormier, kind of a mix between the two in his abilities. But I wanted him to have, that sort of open spirit like GSP has. I think GSP is the greatest of all time.
I do too.
It's really hard to argue reason. Like, there's a lot of dual champions in MMA.
Yeah.
Henry Cejudo, obviously Daniel Cormier,
Randy Couture, BJ Penn.
Yeah, BJ Penn. But now guys who have held the two titles simultaneously. Conor McGregor's another really good example. Yeah. I think that GSP is the best ever, because he had this record-breaking run with the welterweight title, has not been equaled since. And he moved up in weight and choked out Michael Bisping, who had just flattened Luke Rockhold.
Yeah, after like a 3 or 4 year layoff?
Yeah, exactly. It was incredible. Yeah, and Bisping's no joke. Bisping is what was a hard fight for him,
Yeah.
Because he's 4 inches taller. If Bisping's taller than I am, I think, and I'm 6'2". I think Bisping's like an inch taller than me. So that's a tall guy, very light on his feet. You saw the second Hendo fight, how easily he moved around Dan, and Dan clocked him twice and almost finished him.
Exactly.
But
which
still,
is testament to Dan too. So
love Dan Henderson. But Bisping was, he's big, he's fast, really good takedown defense, really good at getting back to his feet. George St. Pierre, very good striker, but last fights we'd seen him in, mostly wrestling.
Yeah.
So that was a dangerous fight. That was not an easy fight for him. And I think that George is good enough. He could have beaten. I really wish he had fought Robbie Whittaker.
Yeah.
But or Israel Adesanya. There were a lot of good fights for him at middleweight, but he's concerned about his health. I understand why he retired. But at the end of the day, it's like that's a dangerous fight, but he took it anyway. Yeah. And he was always very honest about how he felt about things. And the one thing that I always loved about his trash talk, you remember like when he was what he told Koscheck. Mm-hmm. He's like, "We're gonna have this fight, and I'm gonna beat you, and I'm never gonna see you again in the octagon." And he was right.
Yeah.
He stole that man's soul with a jab.
Yeah.
But that's why I loved it. But that was another part of it. Because with athletes, I think that, obviously having boxed myself and learned some Muay Thai, like I know a little bit about this, is that you really have to have this understanding of what it is to drive forward and to progress and to become better and to grind. And that's something that I think is a part of this character that a lot of people are really going to like, is that he's not the smartest guy in the room. He will never claim to be, though he's fairly smart. But he's not an engineer or he's not a scientist. He's a guy who understands history. He understands fighting, and as such, that like those are his things. That's what he sticks to. But you're going to see that he's got flaws. He's got, this part of him that wants to take the low road whenever the challenge seems a little too big. And that's a part of himself he doesn't like, and that will come out in the book. He will fight dirty at a couple of points. I'm not going to spoil how. I will just say it's brutal. But it'll be a moment in the comic where a lot of people wince. They'll be like, "Ooh, did you really have to do that, man?"
It's like, why? Yeah.
So
why didn't I break his legs?
Yeah, but as it stands, and I guess we'll close out with this. Like that is how I will always write my comics. Is I will always make sure that these characters have depth, because without them, people don't want to come back anymore.
That's true. Yeah, I mean and that's the thing with the character that you're creating. I think there's going to be a lot of story to tell there with them, for several different reasons, so I can see it being a nice long-standing series for a bit with a lot of stories to tell, especially, you already have named a couple and I'm just like, dang, man, the fact that you already have that much already, sky's the limit, man. You could have a nice long run with that character. And I hope you do, bro, because this is where it's at right now, man. And I'm sure we've talked about this before in previous streams. Right now, there's this renaissance going on with indies, and the attention, all the attention that the indies is getting. That I can only see growing, especially with the continuing trend of what's going on with the big two. I only see that growing. I really do, because people are just they want comics to be great again. There's no other way to put it. And where it's great right now is the independent scene, where people are not being restricted by the, their, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, their own personal biases or ideology. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm hoping, man, I'm hoping for great things, man. But yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. If anybody wants to, well, we probably shouldn't open it up to too many questions here now, because
let's do some quick ones. One that I liked in there was, if I had the chance to undo one more day. Oh, in an instant, I would get rid of the whole thing. Besides, Mephisto's dead in the comics right now. There's no reason not to undo it.
Yeah. Yeah, so anybody that's got any last-minute questions here for Micah, and I went ahead and also linked the Indiegogo for Englewood for those of you that haven't checked it out yet and want to get a copy of it. Be sure to check that out. It's going to be open until when? Because it's in demand right now.
Yeah, it's in demand. We're going to keep it open until the 19th of October. That will be when it closes. Okay. Reason being is that the next Indiegogo campaign after that we're going to start fulfilling around that time for Englewood, if not like a week later. But at that time, the team who worked on Englewood will be finished, and I'm going to have them start working on whatever they want to do. And then, of course, we'll work on the next Englewood book while I'm doing other stuff. But the next week after that, on October 31st, on Halloween night, my next campaign launches. So
it's a good time. Good time to launch the next one. And yeah, I mean, dude, you're really close to 10K, man. I mean,
it's so much it hurts.
You're just a little under 90.
It's like $88 away. It's like, come on.
You'll make it though. I think you'll make it, bro. I think you'll pass it. So I mean, I hope anybody that's on the stream right now, if you haven't, man, I mean, and honestly, I mean, it's not even to this is not saying anything about any of the other campaigns. Yours is one of the ones that I've seen that it's really not much. It's, you could get a copy for $10.
Yeah.
You get a physical copy of the book for $10. Shipping's what, like $5, and that's way more than reasonable.
Yeah.
So exactly. I mean, it's not a whole heck of a lot. I mean, even if anybody just wants to pick up just a physical copy of the book, that's a really good deal for 36 pages. I think that's fantastic. So
yeah.
Anybody that has $15 to spare, man, get on it. I mean, because that's a great deal for a 36-page independent comic. So hopefully, I think you'll get there though, man. I have no doubt that you will.
I think so too.
Maybe we could get you back on, for one last minute, countdown on the Indiegogo to get those last minute people in to buy it. Because that's always how it seems to go too, is people always come within the last couple of days. That's when they really, oh yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
So I'm sure you'll do more than pass it, but want to thank you, bro, for being on with me, man. Thank you so much for joining me here, bro. It's always a great conversation when I have you on, and bro, got to have you back on, and just let people know where they could find you, man.
Absolutely. So aside from, you can find Englewood on Indiegogo. It is linked in the description. You can just search Englewood on Indiegogo. It starts with an E, not an I, just so you know. On top of that, if you search me by name, Micah Curtis, on YouTube, you'll find my YouTube channel. You'll also find another channel called Micah and the Hat Man. That is my weekly podcast we do every Saturday. On top of that, you can also find me on Twitter at Mind of Micah C, and that's where I yell at people. So it's fun times.
There you have it, folks. Yeah, be sure to get your copy of Englewood. Don't be scared. Don't be scared, homie. Get yourself a copy.
Exactly.
So until next time, y'all know how it goes. Thank you so much for joining the stream. I will be on again tomorrow night at 11 p.m. with a couple people. We'll be talking conventions, anime, and a bunch of other stuff. So be sure to join for that. Just be sure to look out for the notifications. And Micah, thanks again, man.
Always a pleasure.